This week on the Autocar Show, we test drive Audi's hot new RS5. Then we take on the stylish new Audi A7 for a spin. And then Hormus tells you what's the latest buzz from the Indian auto industry. If you've got money to burn, then Audi has just launched 2 new cars for the Indian market, which will definitely make you yearn. One of which is this, the Audi RS5. It's super hot and I really don't have any proper way of introducing this car. So I think I'll just get in and drive and show you what it does. This is thoroughly enjoyable. And that's just a quick introduction to Audi's RS5. And RS of course stands for all things ballistic. After all, the hardware is sourced from Audi's supercar, the R8. Yes, the 4.2-litre V8 sitting under the hood of the RS5 is from the R8. However, there are 2 differences. First, instead of sitting behind the driver like in the R8, here the engine is tightly packaged into the nose. Second, it's making even more power, all of 444 bhp. This direct fuel-injected motor also pumps out 43.8 kgm of torque and has an incredible 8,250 rpm red line. From behind the wheel, the experience is just neck-snapping. And most cars that I've driven, the headrests hardly ever come into play. They're only there for, in case something goes wrong to support your head. But here, in the RS5, they're not an accessory, they are a necessity. Because every time you do this, yep, you get the picture. But the engine wasn't just testing my neck muscles, it was testing my guts as well. Put your foot down and it pulls and it dares you to keep your foot planted. It's just got so much power and so many revs in hand. The engine goes absolutely mental at the top end of the power band. From 0 to 100 km an hour, the RS5 roars ahead like a missile that's just located its target, taking just 5 seconds. It also has a top speed of 280 km an hour. But then this isn't just about out-and-out performance. Just to add to the experience of driving the RS5, Audi have this special flap in the exhaust which flips open when you set it into, let's say, dynamic mode. What it does is it adds bass to the exhaust. There's the mechanical thrash from the engine and then there's that beautiful bass from the engine. Both are different, but both are thoroughly enjoyable. The blend of that deep roar, that mechanical thrash and the performance is a giddying experience. But the RS5 doesn't need to be revved up all the time to be enjoyed. This engine is really quite easy to drive as well because it's got a good spread of torque in that sense. So even at low revs, just tap on the throttle and off you go. Which is why you can overtake cars in a flash. 20 to 80 km an hour is knocked off in 3.75 seconds and 40 to 100 takes just 4.15 seconds. A lot of that blazing performance is down to the uprated transmission. The 7-speed dual clutch transmission is incredibly impressive. Not only is it smooth in its gear changes, but it's also quick, and when you're driving hard, you ask for a downshift and it gives it to you even if it has to rev above 8,000 rpm. Kickdowns are prompt too. You hardly feel the need to make manual gear changes. The standard drive modes are good enough even when you're going full bore. Audi claims a fuel efficiency of 10 km per litre. Though driving flat out, the RS5 drinks petrol at an alarming rate. Now, if you have a weak heart, please close your ears, because we managed 3 kilometers per liter. Still, those folks that opt for the RS5 can enjoy it to the fullest, as it always feels very confident, and that's thanks to Audi's QUATTRO 4-wheel drive system. Under normal circumstances, 60% of the torque is sent to the rear wheels, but depending on grip, as much as 85% can be sent to the back wheels, or 70% to the front. Full credit here to the QUATTRO system, because it gives this car the kind of poise that is just hard to imagine. In places where you should be lifting off, you're still accelerating. In places where you'd be braking, you're still flying. And in places where you should be, well, pretty much off the road, just cruising along. Part of that is also down to the rear wing. To aid stability, the wing pops out of the boot lid at speeds above 120 kilometers an hour. Even when you throw the RS5 into a corner, it just kind of sorts itself out. Despite being a bit on the heavy side, the RS5 still felt sharp. No doubt it is helped by the torque vectoring system. This channelizes power to the outside wheels in a turn to improve its turning ability. Despite all of this, the RS5 does understeer when pitched hard into a corner, and I wasn't too kicked with the steering. The steering feels less than perfect, it's not all that communicative, and at dead ahead it does feel a bit vague. And over loose surfaces, there's that sense of disconnection from the road which can be a little unnerving, because it has that correction system in the steering. This has a correction feature where if you are at the limit and you're turning in hard, it'll apply a slight counter steer to correct for it to make it more stable. Apart from that, it is well weighted, and when you turn it into a corner, no complaints, it's nice and direct. Though sometimes at low speeds, the steering can feel sports car heavy, but then it eases up and feels light for easy maneuvering. The RS5 offers greater flexibility with its suspension. Its dynamic dampers can be adjusted as per your preference. In the RS5's case, the difference in settings is huge. Now the suspension has been really quite surprising for a sports car. Now we're in dynamic and you can feel the car, just pretty much running very stiff. The stiff setup can be a bit tiring with the constant bobbing movement, unless you really hustle the RS5. But if you want to take it easy, you just switch over to comfort mode and it just softens up, just starts feeling more relaxed, which is really quite great for roads like ours. The suspension really does quite well for our roads, taking the broken tarmac very well for a sports car, though it can feel a bit lumpy over the poor stuff at times. But that isn't going to spoil the party for this car, because when you get out and look at it, you'll fall in love with it all over again. So is the RS5 memorable? Well, yes and no. The family resemblance can be a bit too strong to be really distinctive. And the RS5 is hard to differentiate from its tamer sibling, the A5. Light cues such as bigger air dams are about all that you'll see. But when you look at it in profile, the RS5 just seems incredibly impressive. Its size and the way the window line kinks at the rear are very attractive. And then there's the beautiful line on the side that carelessly rises and falls like a water line on a riverbank. And it gets even better as you move to the rear. It just makes me want to say, ooh la la. The interiors are stylish and comfortable, though you do sit a bit low. It has all the trappings you expect from an Audi. It has the MMI, rear view camera, powered seats, and also 2 seats at the rear. They are slightly tight, but can easily take a couple of youngsters or slim adults. On top of that, it's got a pretty sizable boot too. But at the end of the day, it's the way the RS5 drives that makes it truly unforgettable. There really is so much to like about the RS5, from the way it drives to the way it makes you feel. The engine seems to have endless amounts of power, it's smooth, it loves to rev and has the get up and go just about everywhere in the rev range. The transmission also is super quick, very smooth, very impressive. The QUATTRO system,
It just gives you so much grip around corners. It makes the car feel hunkered down and really feels great even on less than perfect surfaces. And the suspension really offers you two great setups. If you want a nice sports car, like hardcore sports car type of setup, you've got that on the dynamic mode. And if you want comfort, just set it to comfort and you can just munch mile after mile. Apart from that, the RS5 steering was the one bit that I didn't like all that much. It feels a little disconnected and a little bit vague at the dead ahead position. But on the whole, this car is also blending in two seats at the rear for, you know, if you want to ferry your kids around, and you have boot space as well. Of course, it is very, very thirsty, but it's coming at a price tag of 74 lakh rupees, and with 444 bhp, I really do think this is an incredible deal. I was asking somebody what RS stands for, and my friend said to me, Rockstar. And I have to say, I can't help but agree.
Does Audi's A7 blend the best of two worlds? Find out after this break.